Among the Vikings, who struck fear into all of Europe, there were special fighting units, the so-called special forces of the early Middle Ages. These units consisted of berserkers, who knew no fear and were like wild beasts in their rage. Is it any wonder that these warriors were feared not only by strangers, but also by their own tribesmen? It is impossible to say exactly how the old Scandinavian word berserker appeared, but most researchers lean to the version that the reference leads to the meaning of bare clothes, or, in another way, bare shirt. In other words, people who were so-called had to wear bare skins instead of the usual clothes and armor. However, in the 13th century, with the light hand of the historian and poet Snorri Sturluson, a different idea of what berserkers looked like prevailed. He interpreted the name as a man in a naked shirt. That is, it should be a warrior fighting without armor and necessarily with a naked torso. At present, most historians have completely abandoned this version, believing that these people fought in animal skins and not necessarily bare. The very tradition of berserkers to put on the skins of wild animals originates from the magical cults of honoring animals. They must be strong and dangerous, such as bears, wolves, or wild boars. The warrior, dressing before the battle in the skin of this or that animal, as if borrowed from him strength, courage, and anger to the enemy. He tried to become similar to the beast not only externally, but also internally. Many ancient chronicles mention mysterious soldiers dressed in animal skins, who fought on the side of one or another ruler. Thus, in the description of the Battle of Haversfjord, belonging to the Scandinavian poet Torbjorn Hornklovi, it is said about soldiers from the army of the Norwegian king Harald the Beautiful-Haired, they were called wolfskins. Judging by the fact that these soldiers were fierce and furious during battles, the poem is about berserkers. Berserkers were eagerly recruited by Scandinavian kings, who used them as vanguard units to help expand their sphere of influence. Other rulers hired bear warriors as their personal retinue, the herds, and some of the berserkers were even honored to become royal bodyguards. They fought in the vanguard and were usually the first to engage in battle. In battle, berserkers were characterized by furious aggression, which was akin to fits of madness. They howled like wild beasts and in a fit of rage gnawed the iron rim of their own shields. On their lips they could foam, and their gaze was completely insane. In short, berserkers behaved as if for a short time and really reincarnated into those animals whose skins they wore. At the same time, such warriors did not feel pain, and enemy weapons and even fire, according to the memories of contemporaries, did not harm them. By the way, insensitivity to the heat of the flame and to iron relates berserk to the Indian fakirs, who, as you know, can sleep on nails and without harm to themselves barefoot walking on smoldering coals. Fierce, bare warriors in animal skins, gnawing the edges of their shields and howling like wolves in a fit of rage, seemed to their opponents being supernatural. And since the berserkers imitated wild animals, their contemporaries considered them to be werewolves, able to reincarnate into wolves, bears, or other dangerous and strong animals. In time, when the Vikings began the transition to a settled life, the berserkers were out of work. But these men were not adapted to a peaceful life. All they knew how to do was fight and plunder. Without engaging in battles, the bear warriors quickly began to get out of control and often became the most common brigands. From which, by the way, cried not only neighbors but also their own tribesmen. But very bad berserkers had during the spread of Christianity in Scandinavia. Then they were declared pagan devils and began to persecute them and finally outlawed them. Some of the bear warriors realized that their era was over and hurried to embrace Christianity in time. Others, forgetting their martial past, took up peaceful labor. But those who could not adapt to the requirements of the new time awaited a bad fate. All of them were destroyed, and by the 12th century the berserk fighting groups had already ceased to exist.